Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and Journey Together is right around the corner. We got like 2 weeks, I think a little under that, and I'm really excited for the new set to drop in, again, a very short period of time, along with rotation. They are essentially together. I guess it depends exactly how you're playing. But yeah, they're more or less together. And today we're taking a look at the new decks, and I'm going to be ranking them. When I say new, I mean like new, focused on a new Pokemon. Some of these are pretty good, some of these are not so good. The best decks in the game post rotation are, so this is a spoiler, there's no S tier decks, I can't imagine. This is rated against like all the decks post rotation. So the best ones are like Dragapult, Raging Bolt's really good. You have Charizard, Goldengo, or Caludon, and Milotic EX is pretty good as well. That's a bit different. There's a bunch of decks though that are really good, and most of those are not new. The ones I said, they're not based on new cards. Some might play some new cards, some might be countered by some new cards, but mostly those are not new. So we're just going to be taking a look at decks built with the main attacker being a new card, including all of the trainers Pokemon as or each trainer has a deck, and kind of, and then we have some other cards as well, some single prizers that are okay, I guess, and a few other EXs. But we'll start. We're going to go in order, and I'll kind of break down the tiers actually real quick. A is like pretty good, very strong. S is just like one or two decks. B is fine. Probably like borderline competitive level deck. C is, probably not a super strong deck, but it's so, there's something there. D is not good. It's like bad, and then F is like you shouldn't really be playing this at all. It's not really ever gonna work. So we have the Maractus. This is not really a Maractus deck. Maractus is a weird card. I've talked about it a bunch. I'm really excited to play with it. It's like a trapping Pokemon, and it's kind of like Dredgen in Pocket. You deal damage if you're knocked out, and then you're going to be able to, kind of pair this with something like Frostlass, which is the idea here. This is like a Frostlass deck, maybe with this Spathra EX, maybe with some Hop stuff, but with Maractus in it as well, and kind of focusing in on that idea. And this deck, I think, is fine. Not super good. I'll put it in C tier. Definitely not a deck with really high upside. It has pretty low damage, really depend no matter what option you're going down. The disruptive element is okay, but it's not super strong. It's not like a really serious control deck. You also have like Badoo. Badoo might just be better in a lot of situations than Maractus. Maractus can, do more damage and has more HP, but does also get hurt by Frostlass. So it's a niche deck, I'd say. It's cool. There's some fun stuff with it, but it's not the strongest. Next, we have what I have is the Magmortar deck. Magmortar increases burn damage, and it's been played with like Badoo. Actually has some similarities with the Maractus deck. This deck, I think, is also pretty mediocre. Volcanion EX is a really important part of it, which burns your opponent's active. Volcanion EX, I think, is a really good, or it's a solid to really good card. One of the better cards in the set and one of the more underrated cards. But the Magmortar Volcanion EX deck, which generally plays Badoo, you could put it like you could do other things with it. It's kind of like the Frostlass thing. Honestly, it's really similar. I think it's a bit worse. I will be ordering the tiers here. The Maractus deck has some better disruptive options in my opinion. I say lower damage, like you're damaging yourself, kind of. It's kind of awkward. So they're in a pretty similar tier. Frostlass is a bit more exciting and can really destroy some decks, but it's a bit situational. I could even see the burn deck lower. I can't really put the Frostlass Maractus box deck higher. Yeah, actually, I'll put in D tier. Unfortunately, it's really fun. I like burn. I like, special conditions. I like burn and poison, and I guess paralyzed. And so it's cool, but unfortunately just not very strong. It's a lot of setup. These Pokemon can get stuck in the active, the Magmortar specifically, which is not ideal. And then, it's not that bad to be honest, but it's not great either. And you don't really have, again, you just don't have that high upside. Actually, have Wailord. Wailord is a card which has a lot of health, right? That's its thing, and it's been played a tiny bit in cities in Japan. This deck is pretty not very good, right? It's awkward. It's a lot of energy to just kind of start doing stuff. It's not unplayably bad though. I mean, you have high HP, and I think this is honestly almost as good as Chimp-Out Excalibur. You are stage 1, you don't get the energies, but you are a single pricer. That's really nice, and you can do pretty similar damage as well. It's going in D tier. It's not going to be like that high. It's not a good deck, but it's not like there are worse decks. I think I do see a deck on this, and I'm gonna put in F tier. Wailord is not very. It's honestly not that interesting. Then you have the Ionos. There's actually two Ionos decks. There's the one with the Raging Bolt and one without. They're somewhat different. Raging Bolt EX is good. Obviously, it's best with TLMS Ogerpon EX. So, anyways, Iono's. This is Iono. I have the Iono's Bellibolt as the Pokemon. But you have the Iono's Bellibolt or Iono's Bellibolt EX, which accelerates a bunch of energy. You have Iono's Kilowattrel. I think it's a really cool card for like a draw engine. Then you have the Iono's Voltorb, which is like an okay attacking option, and you also have the Stadium Laventia. I don't remember if I'm forgetting anything that's particularly meaningful. There's the Iono's Electrode, which is pretty bad, because it like can sometimes take knockouts and also knocks itself out, which is bad. So this will go in C tier as well, just behind the like Frostlass Maractus spread box deck. It's a deck that the Iono's deck has some potential. It's kind of like Wailord, kind of with like the energy acceleration, big damage output. You're not really as tanky. You have some different attacking options though. And then you have Raging Bolt EX. Raging Bolt EX is obviously a good Pokemon. Overall, I think that the deck is, so it's the worst the Trainer's Book run, right? It's not like unplayably bad, but it's certainly not one that I would really recommend to play either. Then we have Lillie's. This is the deck built around Lillie's Clefairy EX and different, and then Teal Ogerpon EX, different box style decks. Lillie's Clefairy EX is realistically the best card in the set, I think. And it's good, right? It's a very good card for countering Dragapult EX and as like a generic attacker, though it's not super strong. It's just a general attacker. It's okay. Then it has the tool card, which allows you to give up one less prize. I want to see if I can find a deck playing that. Or I guess I could just find it here. The Lily's Pearl card. Also, all the other Lily stuff is pretty bad, so it's not really a Lily's deck, but it's a good card. Lily's Pearl is decent. This is a Gardevoir list. That's not what we're talking about. A deck like this, maybe this one's really Ogerpon focused. It's Lily's Clefairy EX plus TMS Ogerpon EX is really what it is. And we see two Lily's Pearl. But then there are decks that are playing a bunch of different Terras. We see Trapagos EX. We see more focus on Will from Ogerpon EX. And we see Pikachu EX. And we see Mew EX. And a bunch of different things. And you can kind of look around and see a bunch of different deck builds with Lily's Clefairy EX and a bunch of different Terras, and I think that it's a really cool deck. But yeah, the deck's decent. The deck's pretty good, to be honest. I'm going to put in A tier. You have different attacking options. You can't always get to the damage output you want, but it's like good. I mean, Pikachu X is really strong, but it's awkward to pay. You need the you need Metal, Lightning, and Grass, and you do have Crispin to get the energy on. You have Sparkling Crystal, which can be really important as well. But I mean, let's be honest, it's not the most consistent attacker at all, and its ability can be really good or it can be kind of useless. Generally, it's a very good ability, making it pretty tanky, but there are times when it just doesn't do much of anything. And Liz Clefairy EX itself is only okay against Dragapult EX. It's good. It's definitely good. I guess good's better than okay. But it's trading evenly, like, right? Prize trade wise. Assuming you don't have the tool. If you have the tool on, you're trading positively. But I mean, Liz Clefairy EX is not insane against Dragapult, but it's good. It definitely helps out a bunch there. You can, cover different things. It's not a deck that stands out as like super insane, but it is fun and you have some different options and it is good. Next you have Metagross. Metagross is not good. I'm going to be completely honest. Metagross, you do 130, 150 more, so 280. If you have a Beldum and a Metang on your bench, there is the other Metang. It's very weak in this deck because it doesn't really help you. It doesn't help you pay your attack at all, but it technically does have some use cases to kind of like increase your odds of getting what you want. So I guess it's the better Metang. I haven't seen anyone play this. This one like barely made the cut. If you're wondering, some cards that didn't make the cut are like this Meowscarada that does stuff. I guess Bayonet, I wasn't really gonna ever talk about that one. And there's some like disruptive ones like Cloth, um, and then like Wheezing, right? Wheezing is just like these are like so bad, right? They're just not like you don't really have anything good there. They could be tossed into something, but probably not. But anyways, this one's also pretty bad. Your damage can be good and it's payable. Um, your damage isn't amazing. I mean, you know, and then you just can't get it off, right? You need all these Pokemon on your bench. I mean, you could do 130. That's not good. That's not the worst, but it's pretty bad, right? It's not good enough. Then you like it's so awkward getting like three different Pokemon all from the same line. I guess that makes it easier, but it's really awkward. It's gonna go in F tier. I'm over explaining this. It's not very good. Then we have Mamoswine. Mamoswine is a really interesting card here. It's got its ability to search for Pokemon's attack that does big damage based on stage 2s on your bench. It has some issues, right? Like look at this, like, oh, we're playing a bunch of Luxrays, which is okay, but not, it's not the strongest card. I mean, it's a decent card, but it's not always going to be triggered either. Blaziken EX, which that's not out yet, but it's like not the strongest. Or Garganackle, it's one of those two. Pidgeot EX is obviously really good, but you have like a bunch of them. Like you don't need two; it doesn't do anything. And Mamoswine EX itself, how to get the energy on? You have the Blaziken EX, you have the Garganackle, but you're like, oh wow, there's all this stuff going on. Is this consistent? No. So that's the issue, and it's not like I mean it's decently strong, but it's not a deck that you look at and you're like, wow, this deck's like absolutely insane. You're like, it's okay. I'm gonna put it in C tier as well next to these other decks here. I'll put it below Maractus, I guess. This seems fine. Certainly not a deck that's going to be a substantial like competitive meta deck or anything like that. I mean, you never know, right? Something weird could come from the future, but we've seen cards like this in the past, and they haven't been particularly good. They've been okay. In Standard, they've been really strong in other formats, but yeah, Mamoswine is cool, but it's not the strongest. Then we have Lycanroc. Lycanroc's a pretty interesting card. I don't actually know, like, there's some different builds, but there's like Frostlass. Oh, okay, this is, I guess, a regular build then. I was going to say there aren't regular builds, but this is newer than I've last checked, I guess. But some Dragapult builds. But yeah, this one playing Lycanroc. Lycanroc accelerates Spike Energy, which is like Rocky Helmet. You take 20 when you hit into it for each Spike Energy. It accelerates to itself from the discard as well. And I was like, why is there Lightning Energy? Yeah, Laventia is, I guess, what would make it the energy of choice. But anyways, the like Pokemon's okay. I think it's actually decent. Like it's not completely terrible. I haven't really heard much talk about this card. I don't think it's super strong, but honestly, I think I'm also going to put in C tier with some of these other, not super impressive decks. But you can accelerate energy. You're a single prizer. You do decent damage. It's kind of like Wailord, except you don't need like a stage 2 and a bunch of water energies in your hand. You need to get the special energy around. You need them in your discard and in your hand, which isn't free, but it's not super hard to do. And your upside is okay here. It's pretty decent. You have pretty solid damage output. And it's not that hard to stream. It's not, again, the strongest card, but I think Lycanroc is decent. One of the more underrated cards from the set, definitely, though not the strongest. It's in this tier of somewhat mediocre Pokemon. Then we have Tyranitar. I don't really know what to think about Tyranitar. Tyranitar is a really interesting Pokemon from the set as well. And this card has its attack, and this is seeing a little more play than I thought. It has an attack, or its attack's 150, I think, mil 2, but its ability, if it's in the active, your opponent's item locked. It's a bit worse item locked than, but it's a little different, or it's pretty different, but Badoo's an attack, so your opponent can break out of this item lock through the use of boss's orders, right? By gusting up something else that's not Tyranitar. So then it is, they can break out of it, but you have like better damage. You have a usable attack here. It's not the strongest, but it is somewhat disruptive, and it's okay. I mean, it's not bad. This is kind of like, honestly, Iron Thorn TX with a very disruptive ability. It's just like super disruptive. This is not easy to work around sometimes, often, though your opponent could work around it. So it does depend on the circumstance and just like how the game's going. But Tyranitar is a card that is really solid here. You look at it and you're like, oh, this ability is good. It's got high HP. It's got a usable attack. And usable, like decently usable. I mean, I was like, you 150, you mill 2. That's nice. It's payable. So, I mean, it's kind of like Metagross's attack. It's a little weaker, I guess, with the full setup, but um, you obviously the reason you play this is the great ability. Obviously, Monkey Door as well on this specific list to like increase the tankiness. You have Luxurious Cape here as well, Neutralization Zone to create a Pokemon that's just really difficult to deal with. That's already difficult to deal with. So I actually think this is B tier. I would not be shocked if this became a somewhat competitive level deck. Not like a super good deck. I want to say competitive level. I don't know. I mean, like, I think people kind of have an idea of what that is. There's like top 10, top 15, top 20, whatever. And so it's okay. Obviously, my channel's not. I mean, I don't like compete, but anyways, it is fine. Then we have the two really important ones. I was like Tyranitar though. It has not been seeing that much play. Has not been getting that much talk. Got a bunch of talk early though. And you're like, oh wow, this card like has really solid upside here. But then we have two of the trainers Pokemon, the best two. Well, I don't know. Lillie's is different, and Iono's is worse. So of the three trainers Pokemon that aren't Lillie's, because that's different, these are the better two, definitely. And then we have that, which we'll talk about at the end. But Zoroark EX, you have a bunch of stuff here. You have your ability, which is nice. We're talking about obviously a deck attacking with it. You could play it in some other deck just for the ability, but we're not talking about that. And Zoroark, actually, we have very mediocre to underwhelming damage output, which is a bit of an issue, probably the deck's biggest issue. But luckily, you do still have some spread options. Mantan is really solid. It's not broken, but it's really good, especially with reversal, and it's an attacking option in the deck. The Reshiram is just not a great attacking option as like your fallback option. You have like obviously pretty good draw power with the Zoroark EX being built into the attacker. And you can use Pekkarunt EX and Binding Mochi as well. I think that's pretty solid. We have the end stuff as well. It's okay. I'm going to put it in B tier. I'm going to put it above the Tyranitar deck. It's not, to me, I mean, I definitely think it's the same tier. Definitely going to be played more. It's pretty popular in school and stuff. But you have just your upside of like your attacks isn't super great. There are some different attacking options as well that are in this deck that are niche, and a bunch of them are control-y, I think. But they're not super strong. And the ability is not something that like carries a deck like this. I mean, it kind of does, but Gardevoir EX is like good because Gardevoir EX is really good, and we don't see Liepard really being played now. And Curly is not being played anywhere else either. I mean, you could see it. It's not like this never happens, but it's just not that common. So it's okay. Definitely a deck that I think's been getting a good chunk of hype. So make sure you temper your expectations. It's solid. Definitely very playable, but not not an elite deck. Then we have the Hops Zacian. There's some different Hops decks. So there's two really. There's like the Frostlass one, which I guess like mostly covered with Maractus, and then there's other builds where you have like Metal Energy, like or Caludon or like Metang. People are playing a lot that aren't playing Metal. It looks like half or something like that, which is a lot, right? So I'll kind of keep these both in mind here, but more so focused on the metal builds because the colorless builds are more related to the Maractus stuff I said before. You have a decent attack, a second attack. It's pretty strong actually, but it does require a bunch of support behind it, and you won't always get that. You'll get some of it, and then you'll be a decent attack, like a solid attack. The first attack is okay. You can do some spread damage and like solid active damage for cheap / free. And then you have the different hops. You have the Hops Cramorant, you have the Hops Snorlax, you have Hops Bag, you have Postwick, and of course Hops Choice Band, the card that's like one of the best cards in this set. I guess it's kind of hard to talk about like how good is this, because obviously you take into account the Hops Pokemon, which are okay as attackers, but they're a little underwhelming without this. They're quite good with it. So you have one less attack cost, one colorless less, and then you do 30 more. To the active, and Hops Zacian EX becomes a solid attacker, but the attackers aren't like absolutely insane. They're just decent, and then you have like decent stats as well. You have like high HP, I guess. I mean, you have like single prize just well in there. We see like Monkey Dory as well. I think Monkey Dory is pretty mediocre in this. But you do Frost Slash to kind of get things going there. And then of course your second attack. I think it is really good to work in both of the attacks. Again, you're not looking at a Pokemon that just has absolutely like it's not a Pokemon that you'll be attacking with over and over again, like Hop or like Archaludon EX, right? So if you're playing that in the same deck, they have different use cases. The Hop Zacian EX is like a big knockout Pokemon where you can be potentially hitting without even like a ton of work. We have the tool, the stadium, and the Pokemon. Yeah, you can be one-shotting pretty much anything, so that's really nice. But is work. You need those 3 cards. You need an energy from hand. You need 2 energy from Archaludon EX. But it could be nice. You have the Hops Cramorant as well, still within like the very metal-based decks. So it's good. I'm gonna put it in the top of B tier of these decks so far. I think it's decent. Your attacking options aren't absolutely insane, but they're pretty good. They can get to really impactful numbers and can do spread and stuff. So they're very good. Last deck here is the Salamence EX though. This one's not so good. It does 50 to all of your opponent's Pokemon and all their bench Pokemon for 3 on a stage 2 EX, which is bad. You can do 300 for 4 on a stage 2 EX. You discard 2. This card's not very strong. It would be really good in Regidrago, or good at least, if not really good. It's pretty bad. I'm actually going to put this one in F tier as well. I'll put it below the Metagross. It's really hard to power up. This list I see here plays it in a Charizard deck, but it's like, I mean, you're playing Charizard, right? So just attack with Charizard and, you can win some with that. And I've seen in some different stuff. I've seen in some like a Flareon deck, and it's like we'll just attack with Flareon, right? So it's a, I was gonna say it's a cool card. It's not even that cool. I would have rather put Noivern on over this, probably, to be honest. I decided to go with this because I've seen it played some. It's pretty bad, right? Let's be honest. It's an EX, and most EXs that are somewhat interesting have some upside. You just don't really see that with this card. Like the attacks aren't even that strong, right? 50 to all their benches, it's okay. If it was that on a basic EX, it would be okay. And if it was 300 for 4 on a basic, that'd be pretty good. Though not absolutely insane. I mean, it's like a similar caliber to Pikachu EX. Obviously, 320 HP on a basic would be absurd, but the attacks I feel like are basic level attacks that maybe stage 1 for the second attack, I guess, which is the high upside attack. But yeah, definitely a card that isn't super good. That is pretty bad, right? Overall, the set is pretty well-rounded. You have some not so good low-end cards, as you have in every set, that can be pretty fun. The D tier, the C tier, the F tier, if you really want to try some stuff out, they're not super interesting, and they're obviously not super good either. Then you have the A and B tier, the stuff that is the decks that are decent, very playable. Tyranitar definitely underrated, not the flashiest, I guess. I mean, it's not a trainers Pokemon like the other 3 we see here, but overall the trans Pokemon are okay as well. The Iono stuff is not completely unplayable. I mean, C tier is definitely playable. Not that you're going to go out and like win all your games, but it's kind of interesting. Tell me down below in the comments though what deck you're most excited for from the set. But I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, join the channel as a member as well. That helps me a lot. But I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.